guys, it's Asa from Central Iowa Fishing, and today I'm here to talk to you about the budgeted angler. Now what I mean by that is somebody who doesn't necessarily have sponsorships or doesn't exactly have all the money in the world to go spend on fishing. And the first tip I'm going to give you guys would be, before you go out and you buy a bunch of soft plastics, make sure you stock up on your terminal tackle first. And by terminal tackle, I mean things like shaky heads, jig heads, swivels, weights, hooks. You don't want to get yourself, you don't want to get a trick worm like this without first having the appropriate size hooks or some shaky heads. So you don't want to get a 5/0 hook with something little, and you don't want to go and buy a bunch of Senkos without getting the appropriate kind of hooks for Senkos first. Next thing I'm gonna talk about would be buying your rods and reels. Now, when you buy your rods and reels, when you're starting out, focus more on the species of fish that you're targeting and the situation. So, say I want to fish for bass in the river. Say I want to go catch some creek smallmouth. Well, what I would do would go out and I would buy about a medium action rod on, about probably a Mitchell Advochet or an Abu Garcia Aura. One of those two. Most people will try to focus on what the pros do, and they have specific rods and reels for certain techniques that they use. So, for instance, I have a Rapala Wrap SXI combo Rapala rod with a Mitchell Advochet reel. Now for this, I would use in the river for some smallmouth. I would use it for some walleye. Or if I'm fishing in the lakes, this is a good rod to use for drop shots and other finesse tactics. So you can use these. You can use certain rods in different ways more than just what the pros use them. And next, I want to talk to you about buying bulk line. It saves you money. Buying the bulk line can give you benefits, instead of running out of line and having to go get more line, you're able to especially keeping it on you. I mean, you don't want to run out of line right in the middle of fishing and have no more line and have to go buy more line. So what I would do is I would buy the bulk line. Almost every line company sells it. You can order it online, or even at Walmart they have the spools. I wouldn't go with anything less than 250 yards of line per spool. Next thing I want to talk to you about is never overlooking used fishing equipment. There's many people that are willing to sell their fishing equipment for dirt cheap, and sometimes it's some pretty good stuff. That Wrap SXI combo with the Mitchell Advochet reel, I bought that used. I bought that along with a couple other fishing poles and a couple tackle boxes for 40 bucks. So never overlook used equipment, especially when you're a budgeted angler. Next thing I want to talk to you about is getting a lure retriever. Lure retrievers are very, very helpful when you're casting your favorite lure out there. You think you're going to land the biggest bass in the pond, and you get hung up on the biggest log in the entire pond. What you do, you hook up that lure retriever, slides down the line, knocks it free, and you haven't lost your $12 lure that you spent at Walmart. Now when you have some of these older lures that I buy from the used tackle boxes, some of them are all worn and torn, and most people will just throw them out. But what I like to do, like with these two for instance, these were worn and torn, and you can repaint them. You can put new hooks on them. You can do all sorts of things to renew older lures. Buy rods and reels that cover most situations. So what I mean by that is, for instance, I have an Abu Garcia Silver Max on a Berkeley lightning rod, and this has a 6:1 gear ratio, which will cover most situations. What I mean by covering most situations would be if you're fishing in the rivers, having one designated river rod for game fish, having maybe one or two catfish rods. But yeah, the 6:1 gear ratios, they will cover most situations. In the 6 range, that's the moderate. You get up in your 7s or you drop down to your 5s, that's when you're specifying on what type of method you're using. Whether you're throwing jigs or you're getting some hula popper action going on. And when you're a budgeted angler, nobody wants to go and see that their favorite bass boat is $2,500. $25,000, excuse me. Because bass boats are not cheap. So buying a used aluminum John boat and converting it into a bass boat is a good way to save money and make the most out of your fishing trip. For me, I'm about 6'3", 200 pounds, which means buying a 10-foot John boat that is only 32 inches wide is not going to cut it, especially when you're doing a conversion. Putting a casting deck on it, it's not very stable. So I would go with a 14-foot minimum of 14 feet and a minimum of 48 inches wide. It'll have the best stability, and you're able to put different kind of motors on those. You can put gas motors or you can put electric trolling motors, whatever you want to do. But either way, converting a John boat into a bass boat is a great way to save money. And don't spend too much money don't go to Bass Pro Shops and go and buy the Bass Pro Shops tackle bag that has the rod holders built into them and can carry you know, 6 of the boxes, and don't go spending a bunch of money on the Plano tackle box, because there's lots of things that can be used for storage. What I have here is just an old US Army bag. You can see in the sides I'm able to slip my rods down through here, and I can carry up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rods if I wanted to on here. And I'm also able to put about 8 of my storage boxes in here, along with other smaller ones in some of the other pouches. Other different kinds of backpacks that you have work just fine, especially if you're pond hopping. But yeah, guys, if you're a budgeted angler like me, a lot of these tips are very useful in saving money to make the most out of your fishing career. So that's all I have for you today, guys. Go ahead and hit like and subscribe, and